Hello, I am Pramod Kumar. Today we will do question answer of CBSE class 12 English. The book is Vistras and the chapter is Evans tries an O level. In this chapter, the story is about one prisoner, Evans. He is in the prison and he tries to pass an O level exam in German language. Before this, he has already escaped from jail 3 times, from prison 3 times. So he is like a jail bird. Goes to jail, flees away, once again goes to jail, flees away, keeps on committing something or the other. So, we will do question answer. There are 5 questions. Reading with insight. First, reflecting on the story, what did you feel about Evans having the last laugh? Right? What did you feel? It says, reflecting on the story, what did you feel about Evans having the last laugh? Means, finally, who is the happy person? Whether Evans or the jail authorities or the examination board people. So when we read the story, what he had done, Evans, a prisoner, had expressed his desire to pass an O-level exam in German language. And since September, he had started getting a tuition also. One teacher used to come in the prison and teach him. And he was the only prisoner who was taking those lessons in German language to pass this O-level exam. And what happened? Jail authorities had not made any inquiry about the credentials of that teacher who used to come to the prison to teach him. It all started in September. Now we are in March and April. Now the time of exam has come. So, examination board and prison authorities, they are preparing to conduct a safe exam so that Evans doesn't escape from the jail during the exam time. So what is happening? Evans is so smart. He had managed that teacher also. Jail authorities don't know about the credentials of the teacher, but that German language teacher is a friend of Evans. When the examination day comes, what happens? The examination is to conducted by one McLeary. But what happens before McLeary starts for the prison to conduct the exam? 2 friends of Evans go to his flat, gag him, bind him in his chair and take all the exam material, and one of them dresses like McLeary and goes to the prison to conduct the exam. Though it is being conducted in very secure, very safe, protected environment, Evans is very smart. Earlier he managed his German language teacher. Now he has managed the person who is conducting the exam. So what is happening? The person who went in the guise of invigilator who will conduct the exam, he carried certain extra things concealed in his dress to help Evans escape the prison. So, like this, towards the end of the exam, Evans got one of his friends from the outside to ring up the jail authorities. At that time, their attention was diverted from the telephone call, and he took the advantage of the distraction of attention of the prison authorities. And what did he do? Initially, he made his friend to escape in his guise, right? So, his friend who was conducting the exam in place of the invigilator, first he escaped under the guise of Evans. Evans stayed back. But when prison authorities saw that somebody was injured, so they presumed that Evans had escaped and the invigilator is injured, has been injured by Evans. But Evans had stayed back. He had stayed back and he had made his friend flee in the beginning. So jail authorities assumed that the person left behind appears to be injured is the invigilator. So they escorted him, and that way, when you read the entire story, Evans escapes again. So in the last, he was staying in a hotel. So the governor of the prison could reach the hotel. From the answer sheet, he had been able to read the German language. Earlier he had read some German language and he could make out from the code that he was going to stay at some hotel. And he was there. So he caught hold of Evans in the hotel. But there also, Evans managed to get his friends who came with a police car. So the governor of the prison, what did he do? He handed him over to the apparently looking policeman to take him to the prison back again. But those people were friends of Evans. So he got in that car and fled away once again. So finally, Evans is able to flee again, fourth time. So the question is, reflecting on this story, what did you feel about Evans having the last laugh? So we agree that in this story, Evans had the last laugh because despite all the safety arrangements, made by the prison authorities, he is successful in escaping again. Right? Evans had the last laugh because despite all the safety arrangements made by the prison authorities, he is successful in escaping again. So he has the last laugh, not the prison authorities. Second question is, when Stephens comes back to the cell, he jumps to a conclusion that the whole machinery blindly goes by his assumption without even checking the identity of the injured McLeary. Does this show how hasty conjectures can prevent one from seeing the obvious? How is the criminal able to predict such negligence? So three questions in these questions. When Stephens came, prison authority came back to the cell, he found that one injured person was lying in the chair and apparently blood was oozing from his head. So Stephens thought that Evans had fled after injuring McLeary, the invigilator. Stephens didn't take the trouble of verifying whether the person left behind apparently injured, whether this person was invigilator McLeary or Evans. So he just presumed, conjectured that the person left behind appearing to be injured is the invigilator, not Evans. Whereas the reality is opposite. The invigilator has left and apparently injured person left behind in the cell is Evans. So Stephen assumes, he conveys to the other authorities, and nobody takes the pain of verifying whether the person left behind is Evans or the invigilator. Nobody takes the pain. Stephens assumes, conjectures, and everybody else believes. So in the process, whatever error was committed by Stephens is committed or repeated by all among the prison authorities. So that is many a times that is quite common, general to happen, because people don't re-examine, people don't examine, people don't re-examine, people don't verify, people don't re-verify. So these things happen. You listen, you just listen and believe it. You just listen and believe it without verifying the facts, without going into the details. Does this show how hasty conjectures can prevent one from seeing the obvious? Yes, that is true. Hasty conjectures, hasty assumptions without right kind of verification, they can result into such kind of preventing one from seeing the obvious. Had Stephens in the first place tried to identify who was left behind, all these problems would not have arisen. Only the invigilator would have escaped. Everything else would have been controlled, contained. But Stephens didn't do that. From seeing the hole in the cell, he just thought, assumed, conjectured, guessed that the person left behind looking to be apparently injured is McLeary, the invigilator. But the fact was that the person left behind was Evans. He had made his friend escape in the first place. How is the criminal able to predict such negligence? How do the criminals predict such negligence? What happens? Criminals who come to the prisons very often, many a times, many criminals are very far ahead of the police or the prison authorities. They are one step ahead of the prison authorities, law enforcing authorities. So they watch the prison authorities day and night. So they try to make a smart guess. They try to make a smart calculations. How in certain circumstances, in what way prison authorities behave, act, react. So they do that total study before using the circumstances, creating circumstances for their escape. So how is the criminal able to predict such negligence? It is only due to very close observation over a period of time, right? Third is, what could the governor have done to securely bring back Evans to prison when he caught him at the Golden Lion Hotel? It was very simple. The prison governor should have brought Evans back to the prison along with himself. But what he do? He believed that a car with two policemen which has arrived, is actually from the prison authorities or the police, not from the side of Evans, right? So he believed once again. He knows this criminal has escaped thrice earlier and this is the fourth time he has attempted to escape. Even then, he doesn't verify the credentials, authenticity of the police vehicle and two inmates who have arrived to take back Evans to the prison. He believes that they are from the prison, they are the police authorities and they will take Evans back to the prison, which is wrong. he has not investigated, the governor of the prison has not investigated about the credentials of those people who have come to take Evans back to the prison. So, the governor would have done very simply, he would have taken Evans in his own car and taken him back to the prison, but he didn't do that. Does that final act of foolishness really prove that he was just another good for a giggle, gullible governor? That was all? Yes. The final act on the part of the prison governor proves that he is also one among them who are gullible. Gullible means who can be led by the nose, right? Who can be led by the nose, and he can believe things rather than verifying, ascertaining, doubly verifying, doubly ascertaining such things. Fourth, while we condemn the crime, we are sympathetic to the criminal. Is this the reason why prison staff often develop a soft corner for those in custody? Actually, prisons of today are very different from the prisons of earlier times. Prison reforms began in the 16th century, right? Prison reforms first time began in the 16th century, sometime in the 16th century. So what are prison reforms? Very simple, that a prisoner also is a human being and his basic needs must be met. His basic rights must be protected. So these kind of things, prison reforms. Earlier, olden days, a prisoner didn't have even the facility of getting right kind of treatment, medical treatment, medication. But things started from improving from 16th century. Lot of organizations are there across the globe who work for improving the conditions prevailing in prisons and who work for improving the condition life of the prisoners in prisons. And periodically, prison staff are also put through several kinds of training to improve their behavior, to improve their thought process, to improve the way they treat with the prisoners. They undergo several kinds of training. And after all, jail authorities, prison authorities are also human beings like the prisoners, right? While we condemn the crime, yes, we do condemn the crime, any crime. We are sympathetic to the criminal. Many of us are sympathetic to the criminal because many of us know that a criminal doesn't indulge into crime out of a sweet will. Most of the criminals they get into crime through certain pressing circumstances. Out of some pressing circumstances, some compulsion, some helplessness, some poverty, some scarcity, right? Or some lack of proper guidance or some improper guidance, they are misdirected. So we agree that they are also human beings like us. So many of us do have some sympathy for prisoners, criminals. Is this the reason why prison staff often develop a soft corner for those in custody? See what happens, prison staff are also human beings, right? So, a major part of their working life they spend with prisoners. So they start understanding their problems, their concerns, their disadvantages, their helplessness also. And both of them human beings, being human beings, social animals, they sympathize, empathize with each other. So over a period of time, prison authorities start becoming a little bit sympathetic to the prisoners. And when they become sympathetic, over a period of time, prison authorities develop some soft corner for prisoners, because prison authorities like us also know that many of those criminals in the jails, prisons, have got into those kind of activities, criminal activities, not out of their sweet will. Most of them are under compulsion. They have been put to certain difficulties, certain pressing circumstances where they were forced to take to crimes, or they were misdirected, misguided. Fifth, do you agree that between crime and punishment, it is mainly a battle of wits? Right? Actually, crime and punishment are two sides of a coin. Once a person commits crime, when he or she is caught, undergoes some kind of punishment at the hands of law. So, one commits a crime, gets charged, and is handed down punishment. So generally what happens, criminals most of the times are one step ahead of the prison authorities or the police or the law authorities. It so happens that there cannot be enough police, enough authorities to prevent all kinds of crimes all the time, right? Some prevention mechanism may be adopted, but those preventive mechanisms may not be totally adequate, because the number of policemen, law enforcing authorities at any point of time cannot be equal to the number of people, right? So what happens, generally we find that the criminals are one step ahead of law enforcing authorities, police authorities, but it can be explained in this way also, that the number of policemen, law enforcing authorities is much smaller as compared to the number of crimes that are committed or criminals that we come across, right? Or the number of people in the society, right? Generally we find that the mind of a criminal is one step ahead of the mind of a law enforcing authority or police, right? So we do agree that between crime and punishment, it is mainly a battle of wits. The smarter one gets the first hand. If a criminal is smart enough, smarter, he or she will be able to commit the crime. If a policeman or the law enforcing authority is smarter, and if they are in good numbers, of course, they may be able to control, regulate, contain crime in their area, or they may have some pressure over criminals. So we do agree that between crime and punishment, it is mainly a battle of wits. The smarter one appears to be one step ahead of the other one, right? If the criminal is smarter, he or she gets ahead of the police. If the police is smarter and in good numbers, they may be ahead of the criminals, one step ahead of the criminals in preventing the crime or controlling, containing the crime in their area of operation, right? So 5 questions we handled. Reflecting on the story, what did you feel about Evans having the last laugh? Since, despite all the safety arrangements made by the prison authorities, Evans is able to escape again a 4th time, we can safely say that Evans is having the last laugh. When Stephens comes back to the cell, he jumps to a conclusion, and the whole machinery blindly goes by his assumption, without even checking the identity of the injured McLeary. Stephens thought the person appearing to be injured inside the cell is the invigilator McLeary, who has been hit by Evans. He thinks Evans has escaped after injuring the invigilator. and he communicates this to the prison authorities. Prison authorities, without verifying, like Stephens, they also believe whatever Stephens says, and they run around here and there, hither and thither, without verifying the identity of the person inside the cell who appears to be injured. Does this show how hasty conjectures can prevent one from seeing the obvious? Yes. It shows that hasty conjectures can prevent one from seeing the obvious. What is the obvious? That in the cell, the person who appears to be there is Evans, not the invigilator. But due to hasty conjecture, Stephens has conjectured, assumed that the person inside is McLeary, right? How is the criminal able to predict such negligence? Many of the criminals are very sharp-minded. They study the behavior, the conduct, the action, reaction of the prison authorities, and they study over a long period of time, and they plan their escape. So they are able to predict such negligence. What could the governor have done to securely bring back Evans to prison when he caught him at the Golden Lion? It was very simple. He would have brought him along with himself in his vehicle and put it in prison again, but he didn't do that. He believed that a car and two people had come. They were from the police and the prison, and handed over Evans to them. But they were friends of Evans. Does that final act of foolishness really prove that he was just another good for a gullible governor? That was all. Yes. The final act on behalf of the governor of the prisons proves that he is also as gullible as anyone else in his team. While we condemn the crime, we are sympathetic to the criminal. Yes, we are human beings. Prisoners are also human beings. So, we sympathize with them, understanding that many of the criminals resort to crimes or a life of crime due to certain compulsions. Is this the reason why prison staff often develop a soft corner for those in custody? Yes. Prison staff also, like us, are human beings. Like us, or like those in prison, criminals are like human beings. Over a period of time, what happens? Prison staff spend a lot of time with those in the prison. So they also develop certain soft corner for those in their custody. And the prison staff also knows that the criminals lodged in the prison, many of them resorted to committing crimes due to some helplessness, some compulsions. Do you agree that between crime and punishment, it is mainly a battle of wits? Crime and punishment are two sides of the same coin. One commits crimes, gets charged, and then punishment is handed down. So, mainly it is a battle of wits. The smarter one goes one step ahead. If the criminal is smarter, he or she will get one step ahead of the police or the law enforcing authorities. If the police or law enforcing authorities are smarter and they are in fair numbers, they will get ahead of criminals, one step ahead of. So we agree that between crime and punishment, it is mainly a battle of wits. Wits means sharp-mindedness, right? I hope you found it easy to understand. In case of any difficulty, you may please approach on my email ID, which will be there at the thumbnail to the video. Thank you.